everyone have ready, so we may start with the first slide. Alright. For today, I would like to talk about the valve end connection and its their standard valve end connection. So before we go further for valve end connection, let's see about the history. Alright, as you can see in our screen, American Society of Mechanical Engineers, also known as ASME, founded in 1880s, is one of the oldest standard developing organizations in the world. Starting with the first issuance of its legendary boiler and pressure vessel code in 1914, ASME has pioneered much of the mechanical engineering standard development. So its code and standard have covered including piping and pressure technology, mostly for valve, nuclear plants, elevators, escalators, construction, engineering design, standardization, and performance testing. So ASME standards are used in more than 100 countries and is mostly the best standard today. So there's a lot of standard that we can find in ASME. So the most common that we can see for valve is a B16 standard. So B16 standard is intended for manufacturers, owners, employees, users, and others concerned with their specification for buying, maintenance, training, and safe use of valve, flange, fitting, and also gasket with a pressure equipment. So everything that related for valve industry, maybe we can follow for B16 standard. B16 standard can help user comply with important regulation while achieving operational cost and safety. Like we have a standard specification, and we don't need to go further for safety, but we need to follow B standard that achieve the standard. So we move to the second slide. Okay, introduction of valve and connection for B16 standard. As I mentioned just now, there's a lot of B16 standard. So for valve, maybe we can focus for 5 ASME standard only, as you can see in our slide, which is the first one is ASME B16.10. Is refer to F2F and end-to-end dimension of valve. For example, you have a valve that need to replacement in the site, so you may refer to B16.5, the end-to-end dimension. So if you want to order the valve, purchase the order, so we need to know what is the length of the valve. Right. For the second one is ASME B16.34. So B16.34 is referred to pressure and temperature rating standard for testing. For example, 150 pound, you need to refer 16.34 and see what is the shell pressure, soft seat pressure, and also sometimes a bed seat to see what is the value of the pressure to test the valve. And then the ASME B16.5 is flange and pipe flange fitting from ½ inch until up to 24 inch. So this one you may refer for the flange, what type of flange you need to refer. And then ASME B16.11 is most likely for socket weld and threaded. And lastly, ASME B16.25 is a butt weld in. Alright, so 5 basic B16 standard you may refer if you need to know the specification further. So what is a valve connection? A valve cannot operate if it's not connected to a pipe from a pipe system. Valve and pipe chain are therefore of a great importance. The connection work must be carried out carefully so as not to cause a leak or damage after connecting the valve. Valve may sometimes be classified according to the configuration of the end connection. We have three basic configuration widely used in oil and gas, which is the threaded, the flange, and also the welded. Alright. So what is the most common valve connection that used in oil and gas? The most common use is first is a flange. We have a rise face and flat face and ring type joint, as you can see at the presentation slide. And the third one is a butt weld, and fourth is a socket weld, and also for the last is mostly used is a NPT threaded. So let's look up every valve connection of each type. Right. First, I would like to talk about the flange, which is a rise face and flat face. So most common type of end connection because it's easy for installation and removal. Like you need to you need to connect from valve to the end flange only with the starboard. So there's two types of flange, which is the rise face and flat face. So what is the difference between rise face and flat face is normally flat face are commonly used for low pressure, like 150, and mostly to be safe, we can choose for the rise face for low pressure and medium pressure from between 150 pound up to 900 pound. So how to installation for the flange is easy. You need to choose the same flange, same type of flange that meets the valve end connection, and you may put the gasket between flange and the valve end. So you just tighten up with the starboard and start and board. And also for the extra information, normally butterfly valve that you may see for the lug type or wafer type also considered is a flange type. So what design you need to follow is ANSI B16.5 for flange. Another type of flange also is a ring type joint. Also we known as a RTJ. It's easy to say the RTJ. Okay, for RTJ is a type of flange also, as I mentioned before, and it's suitable for high pressure application. So if you need a high pressure application, but you need also for the flange with for the end connection, you may propose to client with RTJ. You may propose so for installation method, it seems like flange face just now, but you need a special ring that can use as a gasket. So if you have a pressure application, you may propose for the RTJ types. So it's also in the same group of flange. So we may proceed or we may follow design standard ANSI B16.5. Alright. So the butt weld. The third one is a butt weld. Okay, for the type of butt weld is suitable for high pressure. It's a permanent installation. And then it's a normal we can see in small size but high pressure. Installation method, the pipe rating and pipe schedule should be the same and connection is directly attached to the pipe. So why we can say it's suitable for high pressure because the valve itself, the valve end and also the pipe is welded together. So it's more tough. But for butt weld, you need to consider the schedule of the pipe. Let's say the schedule of pipe 40, you cannot choose the valve with schedule 160 because it's not the same. So it's another consider for pipe schedule. Alright, and then socket weld is suitable for high pressure. It's a permanent installation, also same like the welded, and normally we can see in small size but high pressure. So installation method, the pipe will slot in the socket and the joint will be welded. So the design standard that we need to follow for socket weld is a ANSI B16.11. So every valve, every end connection, they have their own standard that we need to follow. Okay, so it's last type of valve connection, which is we call is MPT. It's suitable for low and medium pressure because there's not tightened by stud bolt and welded. They're just threaded that connect with the pipe and the valve. So normally valve has a typical female connection. As you can see in the slideshow, in the slide presentation, there's a female connection. And then, this is not a permanent installation. Sorry for my mistake. And then normally we can see in small size but high pressure also. And about the installation method, the male threaded piping fitting will connect to the female valve and connection. So widely this end connection are not common use. So the design standard is ANSI B1.20.1. So you may refer for this standard for MPT connection. There's more factor or criteria for selecting end connection, which is the first one we may see the pressure rating or system pressure, type of installation, is it a permanence of valve, the weight and the size, and also the cost. So you can see the pressure rating here. This one is a 6-inch valve that you can see, even though they have a same size, but with a different pressure rating, the flange or the end connection will be not the same. Like you see is 150. You may refer. They have a 12 bolt, and for 300 it have more around 18, and so on. So every valve you need to consider the size, the rating, and also the other specifications, because every valve, every size, there's different the thickness, the size of bolt, and also the end connection itself. So this is example for table for B16.5 150 flange dimension. As I mentioned to you just now, as you can see, half inch, they have a number of bolt of 4, and one inch you have a number of bolt of 4 also, and the more the size more bigger, number of bolt become more bigger, and also everything also change. slightly different. All right. So let's see some comment. Is there any I need to know? Okay. Hello Zah, dah makan. Hi Sim, dah finally change internet you balik. Ya lah Sim. So normally I selalu tanya you all macam mana makan. Okay. Is there any other standard that equal to B16? Also have, but let's say for not as me, we have to need follow for GIS standard. It's more like a PN16, PN20, and so on. So MPT require for welding. Uh, no Chan. MPT and no need for welding because MPT we just tented up the valve and also the pipe only with the threaded. So it's not advisable to go for high pressure. For low pressure, maybe we can use for NPT. Like normally for general industry, we use NPT for connection. Just it's more cheapest and also more easy to install. All right. So I think there's no question from the comment section. So that's all for my presentation today for technical clarification for the end connection. And you have any inquiries about the valve, please visit our e-commerce at turcomp.com, or also you may visit our store online, which is you can see the store.com, so store.turcomp.com. And if you need more further, you may liaise with Turcomp sales at turcomp.com. And that's all for my presentation today. Thank you for staying with me, and I hope we can see you for the next session. So thanks everyone.